Mr. Chair, you are live.
I'd like to welcome all of the members of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission to our monthly meeting today. I'd like to thank all of the commissioners who are able to join us. We do have a quorum of the commission present, and so we're going to start with our work. I'd like to begin again to call the meeting to order, and also to ask the commissioners for their approval of the minutes from our March meeting. My question is to you, are there any additions or changes to the minutes that commissioners would like to bring up?
None here.
Hearing none, the minutes shall stand approved by common consent. Claudia Barber, who is a staff liaison to the commission, cannot be here this evening. She is out of town. But I do have a report to give to you on a couple of items. The first is a question. Did all of the commissioners, did all of you receive the invitation to attend a training for boards and commissioners on April the 20th? I asked that question because I've gotten some email messages from some of the people on the list, not from our commission, saying I didn't get an invitation. So I want to make sure that all members of the commission received that.
Yes.
Did anyone?
I
not?
did.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I would just like to say for the record, I will not be able to attend that training insofar as I have tickets to Baltimore Center Stage that day to see a play, so I will not be there. I'm hoping that at least some of our commissioners can be there, but it is optional. I've got a question, Julian.
Yes, sir.
I just got a very quick email message. It came across here from Commissioner Chuck Hurley. Says he can't find the link.
He's here now. I'm actually just about to try and promote him.
Okay, good. He'll join us in progress then.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just going to mention that to Chuck as well when he comes on.
Yeah.
Hi, Chuck.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. I couldn't find the link.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem, Chuck. We're just getting underway. The
Right.
first thing is we're on the under the commissioner's report, under the chair's report right now. Want to make sure that you received the invitation from the coordinator of boards and commissions for that training on April the 20th. And
I did. I'm not sure I'm going to be in town, but I did.
And I did explain. Right, and I explained to commissioners that I've got tickets to a play that day, so I cannot be there. And hopefully there will be that some commissioners can. But again, it's optional. It's not a mandatory meeting at all. But I think it ought to be interesting.
Right.
I think they're really putting a lot of resources into it. My second item that I'd like to bring to the commission relates to the conversation that we had at our last meeting regarding some of the observations that were made by Tony Strong Pratt, and specifically in whether the commission should sponsor a town hall meeting about issues facing the city and public Section 8 and other subsidized housing. And this was all covered in the minutes. I covered it in the minutes for that. And you'll recall that Ms. Pratt raised the question of why hold a town hall on this issue now. And specifically, she said, well, who's going to attend this? And I think there was a lot of concern that she expressed that there was a blind eye that was being played to this, and even members of the housing committee of city council really had exhausted their efforts and the like. That conversation reached an end when I said that I would seek the advice of the chair of the Housing and Human Welfare Committee of City Council regarding how he thought the commission might proceed with this. That was to Dewan Gay. I did not receive a response. So that communicated to me because I outlined to him the comments that were made by Miss Pratt, and I don't think that he had anything that he would have added to that. I think probably feeling the same way in a lot of ways that she did. So this leaves open what we wish to do with regard to that issue. I would just like to underscore a couple of things that are very important on with respect to this. The commission's authority in the city code gives us the ability to respond to complaints of discrimination broadly defined. We get a complaint of discrimination, we can do a lot with that. We also have the explicit authority to prepare reports and studies and make recommendations to city council. What we don't have the authority to do, at least in my judgment, is to launch a full-scale investigation without some prompting by some party that's been negatively impacted by a situation. And that's something we don't have right now. I would like to get the commissioner's views on that. If there's an opinion that I am being too narrow in my interpretation of what the city code gives us the authority to do, I can and will seek an advisory opinion from the Office of Law on that.
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah, sure, Commissioner.
So I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. What you are saying is that without a complaint regarding the issues that are affecting Annapolis City residents, specifically with the issues pertaining to like mold being in the residents and things of that nature.
Yeah, and that came up.
We cannot, you said, use the word investigation, launch an investigation. Let's say we did have that type of complaint. What exactly is the authority of the commission to address those type of matters and issues?
Well, what we can do is what we did in one other circumstance years ago when we received complaints from a number of the resident councils at several of the public housing facilities in the city, saying that the conditions were untenable and saying that the person then serving as executive director was not listening to what the residents were saying and were treating the residents very badly. That came in the form of a complaint that came from several parties. The commission held a very heavily attended public hearing on that subject. We had probably 200 to 300 residents show up. Many of them wanted to speak. We took testimony until 2 o'clock in the morning. The mayor was there. We ended up doing a report which went to the mayor and city council, and the person who was executive director a few months later stepped down from the role. That we can do. What can we do without a complaint? We can actually do a study of some kind, or hold a public hearing or a public meeting and collect information and then send it off to city council or to the mayor saying we held a town hall meeting on this. That we've got the authority to do. What we can't do is to say we've heard allegations about the conditions. We've heard allegations from people talking about mold or but we haven't had anyone actually testify before the commission on that. That, in my judgment, could create a problem. Again, I can seek an advisory opinion from the city on this, but I'm pretty sure the city attorney is going to come back and he's going to read me what the city code says the commission can do. Chuck, are you, Chuck, do I see you wish to be recognized? I see your hand up.
I do. I think we do have authority to invite city council members. And we talked specifically about inviting the housing committee, Duan Gay chair, and I think Ellie and I'm blanking on third. But Mike, I think what we were presented with is a pattern of neglect by the city of public housing. And the likelihood that what's the word I'm looking for? A visit by the commission to a housing center, if invited, was unlikely to change that. I mean, I think we need to ask the folks who do have the power to fix the mold, fix the things, which yes, may be the housing authority, and they may well be invited as well. But I think we need to find out from city council, why has this issue been allowed to fester for months,
Years.
if not more? And are there any barriers to that, Mike?
Well, I think again, let me call on Joshua. He has something he'd like to say. Joshua, could you?
No, I mean, I think you can only answer one question at a time, Mike. And I know that
Okay.
you know, I mean, I in line with what Chuck was just saying, I think that a lot of people are frustrated, residents wise.
Right.
Some are fearful. They don't want to step forward and say, this is what's going on. There's mold in my house. It's a place that's not healthy for my children or me to stay in, but I really don't have anywhere else to go. And so that's beneath the surface. But above all, what's going to be done anyway? I put myself out there. I come and I tell you all this stuff is going on. What's going to be done anyway? So I'd also say that what efforts have been made from the commission to go in some of these housing complexes and let residents know that this is something that we're interested in hearing. If this is what's going on, we're interested in learning about the conditions in which you are living in. I mean, we shouldn't have to wait for a person to come and complain when we have several people, including myself, that are saying that they're hearing that these are the conditions that are existing inside of the housing authority. What else?
If that's where the commission wants to go on this, I will ask for an advisory opinion from the city attorney, because there's the commission's role, in a sense, this is outlined in the city code. I don't want to read it to you. Gives the commission authority to do certain specific things, and saying that we have heard this complaint. If we go to city council, I basically did that already. I sent a letter almost immediately after our last meeting to Duan Gay, in which, among other things, I said that we had had a presentation by Tony Strong Pratt that specifically stated that individuals had filed complaints regarding looking at the minutes from last meeting, mold and other unhealthy conditions in public housing units. And I just simply raised the issue in the letter is whether this is something that the committee, the housing committee, would want to look into, and is there a role for the commission? I did not receive a response to that email.
Why not? And who then else should you contact in order to get clarification about what role the housing committee should play and what role the commission should play upon receiving such information?
Okay. I'm going to have to go to the city attorney on this one, because the commission's role in the city code is very, very specific on this. You know, we can handle complaints of discrimination. We can define those things broadly, or we can hold town hall meetings or other kinds of public forums to collect information and then make a specific recommendation to city council and to the mayor. Ms. Pratt was not enthusiastic about town hall meetings. She said, all you gotta do is you're gonna be going over things we already know. So,
Mike, can I ask a question, please?
sure.
Do we need an opinion from a council just to invite? And I thank you for expressing our concern to Dewan Gay and the committee, but do we need an opinion in order just to invite them to come to the next meeting and discuss the situation?
I can make that request. That doesn't mean that they're going to come. You know,
I understand.
Yeah, you got to remember who are the elected people here, not us.
I understand that, but I think at least I'm speaking for myself, an invitation for them to come and discuss what appears to be a pattern of violations for an extended period of time, and what is the committee doing about it? Just to learn.
So I actually left our meeting last month with a little bit. I knew that you were going to follow up with Dewan, and I thought your goal was to invite him to this meeting to talk about what they're doing. And then the other thing that I left with was what I heard Tony saying to us was we really need to educate ourselves and to understand what is going on, because that is the problem right now, is that we've got, you know, we hear that things are going on, but we're not hearing directly, or we're not talking about
Right.
direct complaints. So I heard something a little bit differently, in that we need to educate ourselves and we need to work on our outreach in communities so that people, you know, it comes back to what we've talked about, our goal issues are, that people don't really know who we are. We're not in the communities, we're not building relationships and getting to know people. So that's what I heard. I'm not sure why we would be going to the city attorney. I personally, I have opinions about that. But there's also two other members on that committee with Dewan, Brooks, and Ellie. So you could email all three of them and ask them. You know, I know that I was planning to go to their meeting this past month so that I could educate myself on what they're doing, and it was canceled. So I don't know what's going on there. But it's frustrating to me that we have not been able to move forward on educating ourselves over this past month, because their meeting was canceled and because we haven't gotten response to that from them. So, yeah.
It is unusual for boards and commissions can make requests to members of city council to come to meetings. But please understand that they don't necessarily have to respond that way. You know,
Understood. But
you know,
my understanding,
and the fact that I raised all these issues that you're talking about right now in an email to the chair of the committee, and I got no response to it, puts me in an awkward position, because if I were to extend the invitation again and copy the other members of the committee, I can guarantee you the chair is going to be pretty ticked off by it. So what might be useful, if some of you feel really strongly about this, is to, I can send you a copy. I did not copy anyone on that email. I just sent it to Dewan, to him directly, and that's it. I didn't copy the other members, didn't copy the commission. Deliberately didn't do that. Didn't want to make it look like I was trying to force something down his throat, so to speak. But if there's any other members of the commission that would like to communicate directly with him, I can send you a copy of that email and you can use it and forward it to Dewan and say, you know, Mike Keller says we didn't get a response to this. We think this is really important. We're trying to educate ourselves. But then it goes back to going, how do we educate ourselves? And we hear about conditions related to mold.
Well,
Is that some units? Is that widespread throughout all of the, I mean, or is it one or two?
Mike, I think the way to find that out is to go directly in the housing complex and ask and talk to the residents, the people who are living inside the actual condition.
But which ones? Which units?
Well, you can start with Annapolis Gardens. You can start there, and I'm sure you can work your way around Annapolis and hear similar stories.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the commission should initiate a visit to the public housing units to determine if there's mold problems. Is that what's being suggested here?
I'd agree with that, Mike. I would agree with that, but what I heard from Tony Strong Pratt was that before the residents have been visited and there have been discussions and nothing happened. So I thought what I heard her say was before you go and present yourselves as agents of change, we ought to have some demonstrated effect of what we're doing, or that I got from her that it came across as arrogant that we'd have a town hall when the likelihood of that changing the situation was low. I don't know how other commissioners.
I did hear that. I did
Yeah.
hear that.
Okay.
And I guess what I also heard is a level of frustration that I understand because I've lived here, talking about me, I've lived here almost 20 years. And the issues in public housing, I heard about even then.
Right.
So I'm just flabbergasted that this feels like we're on this constant merry-go-round and no one is doing anything but talking. So that's just my vent. I don't understand that if this is public knowledge and it's certainly been proven, why are we still having these discussions and why isn't something done? And who is the authority to do that?
Yeah, because there's different housing too. Like Annapolis Gardens is not public housing, so it's not run by HACA.
Mhm.
So there's also the different layers of housing too that we have to keep in mind. I think that, you know, the best thing would be to develop an outreach plan like we need to do anyhow, that we said we wanted to do anyhow, and figure out if there's ways to go to community days or something in different neighborhoods to start meeting people and start, you know, maybe come with a paper complaint form, right? Or have our QRC so people can scan the complaint form and fill it out right there and then. But again, I personally don't see knocking on doors doing that unless we're invited. Like, I feel like we would need to get to know some of the people in each neighborhood. The difference between now and when you last had a town hall, Mike, is that people were organizing then. People are not doing that anymore. So there was a coalition of people that were organizing about housing conditions, and now it's not something that's consistently happening.
Well, I would disagree about knocking on doors. I think that you do need to knock on doors. You do need to talk to people. You do need to let people know that you're there. You do need to do some form of outreach to let them know that you, if they don't feel comfortable with raising the issue, that's what we're here for. We're here to raise the issue. And you're not going to do that by slapping up a QR code on somebody's building and say, just scan this.
Well, I'm not saying splat. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like participate in a community event so that we can actually be present in the community. And I'm not totally opposed to knocking on doors. I've done it before. I did it with ACT, Josh. So like we've done, been there, done that. It's just frustrating in general because it's like you can connect with people and they'll talk and they'll tell you everything and you can raise it and you can do a town hall and you can do a big event and you can get it on the news. And then what happens usually is that the specific one person issue might get addressed. That's what the politicians seem to focus on. And then the overall systemic issues that are just always causing the issues aren't addressed. So, I mean, I've done it before with ACT, and it really was just frustrating. It got, some of the issues got addressed, but it's just like, unless you're going to be consistent about it, it's like an ongoing thing.
Yeah, I understand. There's one other thing that
Chuck and then Rosemary. Chuck?
I would, I obviously agree with.
And Trish is here, by the way.
I'm sorry?
I know that. Yeah, Trish has joined us.
Oh, great. I obviously agree with going there as well. But I think the first step we should do is to ask for the inspection reports of the housing. I believe that the city is obligated to inspect all public housing, both private providers and HACA. And I'm guessing that it is nearly 100% likely that we will see that problem. Going there without doing our homework, I think, is what, and indicating that we are going to solve this problem is what I think Tony Strong Pratt found is arrogant. That we ought to first find I'm not in disagreement with going there, Josh. I agree with that. But I think the first step ought to be and it can be done tomorrow, is to go to the city housing inspection office and ask for the inspection reports from all of are there 10 that are involved properties on the issues of mold and unanswered complaints on other health issues in the housing projects. And then after we have that in hand, I think then we would have a better standing to go and say these are or first, I would actually go back. I don't think Dewan Gay intentionally did not respond. I think Dewan Gay and Ellie and Brooks are the only ones on the council who really feel some urgency on this, and they would welcome some outside leverage. I bet he just didn't see it or was tied up in other areas, but I can't imagine he intentionally. I would think he would see us as allies in something he's been working on for some time. But if we got the initial inspection reports, and I even would again indicate we would like perhaps even a meeting before the next commission meeting for those of us either on the outreach committee or others that would go get the inspection reports and then ask for a meeting with that committee to see what's being done about the findings of neglect.
Joshua, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I was just going to also comment about what was said regarding Annapolis Gardens not being how operated by the housing authority. While that may be true, they still should be required to ensure that the conditions of the apartments and the units are safe and they don't have mold in them, and they still need to be addressed as well, because I personally know that they actually have units that have mold inside of them, and people have been saying stuff about it, And so, yes, they also need to go on the long list of complexes that need to be addressed here in the great city of Annapolis.
Okay, Rosemary, I know that your hand was up. I call on you.
Well, it went up, it went down, because we are getting very passionate. And but that's what we're here for, right? So on the issue of educating ourselves, is it appropriate, a good idea, to have someone from one of the resident councils come to talk to us on one of our meetings? Does that give us then better insight? And then does that give us a better action strategy to address these issues? I can't see us going, let's say, to Harbor House and just go there. We need to have someone from the community with us, because otherwise we won't be taken seriously,
Right.
even though our hearts are in the right place. So I guess those two things: inviting someone from a resident council, and if someone from that particular complex can be with us, give some credibility to what we're trying to do, that would be a suggestion of a way to go.
Yeah, I'm going to call on Tricia on this very briefly. We're having a conversation, a follow-up conversation regarding the presentation that Tony Strong Pratt made at our last meeting, in which he concluded, basically, why hold a town hall issue? Because people have been so frustrated by the conditions and the like. I've raised this issue. I think I'm going to propose a way of going, but I'd like to hear Tricia's opinion on it, on this particular question. The commission has the authority in city code to respond to complaints of discrimination, broadly defined. We also have the ability to do reports and studies and make recommendations to city council and the mayor. Do we have the authority to, without specific invitation, go to public housing units in the community, in Annapolis, go to private apartment complexes, seek documents from the responsible parties for doing inspections in housing? Do we have that authority in the city code?
To go to private parties and ask for that? I don't know that there's specific language. Something you might consider doing is starting a dialogue with the right city officials to understand what is happening. To know what the roles are, to know what I heard you talking about inspections. I think it's very valuable to go and make sure that you have an understanding of how the code works and the regulations work, and therefore what authority the city exercises in public housing, or whatever housing you're trying to get a sense of is appropriate, affordable, safe, because that is your mantle, right? Fair, to be able to handle complaints regarding fair housing. So it might be worth your time to first talk to maybe the planning and zoning director, maybe the division chief over inspections and permits. John Manassa is that person. Just to get a better understanding of what the city's role is, and if there's any reports that have been generated, because more than likely they've had to, through some of the boards and commissions, had to report that information back to interested parties. Or there may be some reports that were prepared, some performance standards, some reporting that's been already prepared to respond to those kinds of inquiries that are already out there in our public.
Well, thank you, Tricia. I am going to make this proposal. I'm going to make a proposal that this matter be taken up by the outreach committee of the commission. Chuck Hurley chairs that committee. Rosemary is a member of that committee, as is Linda. Joshua, you're on the complaints committee, but you can certainly participate.
We would
this,
welcome anybody.
matter. And I am an ex officio member of both committees. So that will bring a number of people into play. So what this would do, Chuck, is basically this is going to turn this thing over to you as chair of the committee to arrange for the kind of thing that Tricia is talking about, and that is specifically to talk with city officials whose responsibilities would be the inspection of the units, and say that we are doing this. We're just moving ahead. We're just asking questions. We're not taking any steps. We're just asking for it, and see what kind of response we get to that.
Mike, can I offer some friendly amendments? First off, I agree. I think that might be good, and perhaps ask for a meeting well before the next meeting, and within the next. I'm leaving town on Thursday, but even in the next couple of days, to ask for a meeting, or actually ask him to come to our meeting. The person responsible for not only in the inspection, but I believe also enforcement of the codes. Somebody in the city, Tricia, you can help me. Is that the person you mentioned? And I forgot his name, John Manassas or something?
Yeah, John Manassa is the chief over code enforcement.
But he's
and
it's
he
not only
report-
inspection, but enforcement, right?
Yeah, I mean, code enforcement is inspections and permits. Right?
Okay.
It's all of that. So
But,
it's including your property maintenance inspection team that goes
But
out and actually does those inspections.
I'm going to be out of town for a week or so or more, beginning on Thursday. I would even seek a meeting in the next 3 days, whenever the most people can join, and to collect what information we can on not only inspections, but follow-up enforcement and changes in the conditions in that way. I'm sure John Manassas has no interest in maintaining these, what appears to be a pattern of conditions. I can't imagine he does, but we ought to find out.
It's not their charge. Their charge is to do the opposite. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think I would approach it not in a hostile way, but in a friendly way. We want to find out how we can help them accomplish that objective, but also to find out whether or not there has been a pattern of neglect, which certainly was what I heard from Tony Strong Pratt. And I would invite people to go see if I can get that meeting in the next 3 days, and invite any of the 3 members currently of the outreach committee, but any other member of the commission that would like to join us, including you, Mike, to either go to his office or meet in a neutral place. I'm happy to go to his office.
Or
I'd
we
like-
could do
I'd
it
like
when you
to
get back.
I'd like to jump in.
Okay,
I think with this particular issue, because it is a huge issue, it's a mountain of an issue, and I don't believe that we should separate ourselves out as you are the outreach committee, you are the complaints committee.
Okay.
We're all on this commission, all of us. And I see this as all hands on deck, not, well, Rosemary, Chuck, and Linda are going to do X, Y, and Z. I don't believe it's just us. I believe it's all of us. So my 2 cents.
Thank you, Rosemary. Joshua?
No, I was just going to say that I live in a land of having 2 monitors. My other monitor, I just pulled up, just did a Google and stumbled across this article. It says HUD scores Annapolis Housing Authority a troubled performer. And this is an article that was written back in November of 2023 that said that Hacker scored just 42 points on a scale of 100 and was labeled a troubled performer, according to a public housing assessment system reported. So I think, it's stuff like that that we really do need to have a sense of what's going on, because now I'm interested in seeing what that report actually covers and what it entails, so that we can be informed when we're addressing this issue.
It might also be good to go meet with the head of the executive director of HACA and raise those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And my main point is I don't think we ought to wait a month to do this, and that we could act pretty quickly. And I think that might demonstrate to Tony Strong Pratt that we are serious about doing things. And I think if she saw that we were serious about it, I think she could generate both a complaint and an invitation. I agree with Linda's point. I think we ought to be wherever we go, we should be invited. We shouldn't just storm in and say we're the commission and we're here to help you. That came across, I think, to her as arrogant. But that we ought to be invited and have demonstrated some homework in the short term as well. And I don't have any problem with Rosemary's point. I would welcome any and all people. I'd be glad to set up the meeting, and maybe it could be the entire commission or the outreach committee, either one, Mike.
Well, I think you can certainly extend the invitation to the entire committee, Chuck, saying this is something that the outreach committee was, this is an easy way to handle. I could suggest that that a motion be made that the outreach committee and other interested members of the commission shall, what, you don't like that at all, Ellen?
Well, I just agree with Rosemary that it's a whole commission issue. That's all. You're the chair of the commission, either we're all going to act together or not.
Well, isn't perhaps a middle ground saying that the outreach committee on behalf of the commission would like these meetings?
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I think you can extend the invitation to whomever you want to, Chuck.
Okay.
I do think this is be a perfect project for the outreach committee.
Okay.
And you could go about this in a number of ways. I mean, you talked about inviting representatives to speak before the commission at its May meeting. We invite all kinds of people to speak to us, so that's a good way of doing it. Or you could simply speak with the members of the City of Annapolis staff who have responsibility to this and determine what they're willing to share with us. And I have no way of knowing that. I like the idea of inviting them to come to speak to us, because that gets us around any thorny issue whatsoever. That we've overstepped our authority.
I like
but
the idea of meeting with them, and as well, so to educate ourselves, right? And so I think I like the idea of inviting everybody on our commission that would like to be part of this, to educate themselves, to meet with the city, to understand what's going on with the inspections, to meet with, as we start going along, determining if we have other people that we want to meet with, and also bringing people in to educate us. But I think, as we know, it's a long-term, deep issues, lots of systemic issues that have not been solved in decades, and one meeting's not going to solve it. So we've got a lot of good ideas on the table, and I say let's just start doing them all. We can for meeting,
I would move the motion that Mike started. I guess I'd word it in this way, and I'd welcome any revisions, amendments, that I move that the outreach committee, on behalf of the commission, ask both the inspection, the division chief, John Manassa, am I saying that right? Meet as soon as the next few days if he's available, and to discuss the inspection program and what enforcement action has been taken. That's too long, but to meet with him on the issues of public housing conditions, and also seek a subsequent meeting with the head of HACA to discuss what actions they are taking, and then proceed based on that, proceed with other meetings as the group would see necessary.
It's
Okay.
public housing and subsidized housing. So
Yeah,
include all those.
I don't think we ought to differentiate. I think the city
Well,
has
but
has
different issues going on though, because the
different
public,
issues going on. Can I speak for a second, Linda?
yeah.
I believe that even the private providers of public housing are inspected and have to are subject to enforcement of the code in Annapolis. Obviously, they are a little bit apples and oranges, but they're still subject to the code, and we should find out what they're doing to comply with the code.
Right. I'm just asking you to make sure that you're broadening that and not being specific about
What?
public.
Oh no,
because
I'm talking about both.
is my point.
Yeah,
So that's all I'm saying. It's just
yeah,
broad.
I agree with you.
Okay.
It would be both the HACA projects as well as the private provider public housing, subsidized housing, whatever the right term is.
I mean, and really, if you think about it, I think it should be all housing and list, because there's a lot of stuff going on in my ward with like people that rent from private owners housing and they're in bad conditions, right? So I would ask for all inspection reports for people that have complained about issues with the maintenance of their houses.
I wouldn't object to that, but I think we really ought to zero in on the conditions in public and subsidized housing that were presented to us by Tony Strong Pratt, and then go where it leads to other patterns. But if we go too broad and look at housing inspections across the city, I think that would take more time than I would be comfortable with. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but we ought to focus specifically on
That's fine.
Okay.
I got you.
Okay.
Okay, I think everyone's heard Chuck's proposal. It's coming to you as form of a motion. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll
I
second it.
second.
Okay, it's been seconded. Okay, basically, by passing this motion, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be empowering Chuck as chair of the outreach committee, and in his capacity as the commission chair of the outreach committee, to go ahead with an examination of the conditions in specific housing units and public housing facilities, and to request as available any specific reports that they have regarding inspections. I think that's where you're going, Chuck?
Yes, and I would add a follow-up meeting with the head of HACA, the executive
Okay,
director
that's
of
right. You
HACA.
mentioned that as well. The follow-up meeting with the
And then-
executive director of HACA.
And then at least have all that done by the next meeting, if not more, but at least have all that done so that we could, the entire commission could come up with a discussion of what next steps should be.
Okay, all right. Rosemary?
This was just, I was wondering if Joshua could send us the link to that article so that we can also on our own.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Josh.
Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. We've got a small group, so I'm going to call a roll call on this. If you favor it, vote aye. Opposed, no. Abstain, abstain. Rosemary,
Aye.
Kay, Helen,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Chuck,
Aye.
Joshua.
Aye.
Here also votes aye, so it's unanimous.
Great.
Okay, Chuck, we'll look forward to your follow-up with respect to this.
I'm going to be leaving town Thursday, so I would hope I could get an initial meeting with the division chief of the city code inspection as soon as Wednesday, and if he's available. Obviously, but ask that we are requesting a meeting with him. The commission is requesting a meeting with him, and if it's convenient before Wednesday, and that would be the first step. The second step, I'll be back on the 15th, I think. So after that, maybe that meeting with Haka. But I'd love to have much of this accomplished, the background and homework accomplished before the next meeting, so that we then could decide on a plan of next steps of how best to resolve these issues.
Okay, well, thank you. I will just move forward on this and look forward to the results of your inquiry, Chuck.
And I'll keep everybody posted on email. And by the way, I would invite, and as soon as I get a meeting, I will invite not only Linda and Rosemary, but I assume Josh may be interested as well, and yourself, and Helen and everyone else. I would welcome any participation by other members of the commission.
I would send it to the whole, to the
Great.
entire commission.
Why don't we do that? Then I will do that.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to then return back to the agenda that we had for this evening and under new business. Basically, in putting this together, I thought back to the last month's meeting, in which Rosemary suggested, and this is contained in the minutes, that we ought to focus as much as possible on low-hanging fruit. In other words, things that we have direct control over and can do, and don't necessarily have to depend on others. And that brings me to item 6A under the new business. And that is looking for a progress report on the HRC action plan for the goals for 2024 that were adopted at March's meeting. And the first one dealt with the implementation of the HRC webpage improvements. We noted a number of things that needed to be changed there. One was to remove all the old web pages. Depending on how you access it, if you go directly to the city website, go to boards and commissions, scroll down to Human Relations Commission, you'll get the newest version. If you pull it off of an email or off of another document, you may not get the most recent one. Tricia wishes to speak.
Actually, there are some real changes that have gone on probably since
Okay,
you
all
all.
right. Could you brief us on that, Linda?
Actually, what you just said is no longer true. So,
Okay, that's very good. That's progress.
So, Ina Young is the webmaster for the city, and she's been working with Hillary Raftovich, who oversees the boards and commissions, and they're actually using the Granicus system now. So this is a great opportunity right now. It doesn't look like it used to look at all. It's actually pretty plain, like boring plain, because now all of the boards and commissions are together. And if you want to see agendas, you want to see minutes, you got to go to all the boards and commissions, go to agendas and minutes, then scroll down and get Human Relations Commission, go to yours. Same thing with annual reports, those things that are pretty common for each board and commission are set up that way so it can be managed better for Hillary's sake. There are 26 boards and commissions.
Yeah.
That's a lot to manage. So when you get onto the page now, that we have the opportunity to work more robustly on the additional page. So there's the common elements. It's got who's on the commission, how many vacancies you have, links to information about the members. But at the very bottom of that is the link to the more descriptive page. So that's, if you go to that right now, Mike, I had her put it back on. It had been pulled off because of the work that Inna's been doing. I had her put back on, and back in 21, let me get my notes. I think it was in 21, you had asked for the Baltimore neighborhoods information to be put on there because that was for housing mediation. So
Yeah.
so that is the Baltimore Region Housing Partnership is on the additional page so that it's descriptive of that and provides a link to them. Go to that, take a look at that page. And this is where the edits should be. This is where whatever you want to have there, links, etc., we need to make sure are attached to it. Because otherwise your first page is all the quote unquote tasks of the boards and commissions across the city. Who are the members? Where are the agendas? What's your meeting times? All of that basic stuff. So that's what's happening.
Okay.
And
That's-
so all
that's
of
good.
that searching for old stuff is a thing of the past. She's taken away
Okay,
all
good.
those pages.
Good. That was the important thing because we had some really dated information
Yeah.
on some of that stuff. I mean, I'm glad that's very good that it's gone. I did have a recent reason to go to the page, and I noticed that the next item here was prepare a comments section for the web page. I found one. I found on the site for, at least for the Human Relations Commission, there was a thing that said comments, and you could write comments and then send it out. I presume that there would be someone in the Human Resources office that that information is going to. I'm not sure
So
who
those,
receiving it.
yeah, so both primarily Claudia is the one that gets the email link
Okay.
because she's her staff liaison. So that's going to come to her. And then it's her role to get it to you, Mike, or whomever you suggest in that screening. And I know that Claudia does that. I was Claudia before Claudia, in that role. So I know how that works. So it's important that you make sure that additional page, I'll just call it the additional page because that's what Inna called it. It's got links to the brochures, both the English version and the Hispanic version. It's got the complaints form. So I forget the complaints form on there twice. I don't know why it's listed differently. We can reorder that order there. We can, cluster it, whatever I suggest you as a commission, and I'm happy to help, but I suggest you take a look at it for the look and feel. I sense a little frustration on Inna's part because working through this system to make it easier to manage kind of takes away that kind of branding that we're used to doing, the pictures or the look and feel of it. That's going to all have to be on that additional page, not on the primary one.
Now, we did ask for a new video for the web page, and I said I'd be happy to serve as the person that would actually do that. But what I would need to get some help from the city in terms of how that could basically be done. I mean, basically what I would do is I would just give them a short talk about what the commission does, and it would be the same information that we talked about putting up, and that would be a description of the commission's complaint process. There was interest in doing that. I think it's very important that we have that. Because we do have it in paper form.
Yeah.
But it's really long. It goes to great detail. No one's going to read it. what's needed is a one-page summary, and I prepared that one-page summary. I think I sent it to you. That basically described what the commission's complaint process should be.
Yeah, and that
Um,
makes sense in a couple of areas, right? You could even through video describe the work the commission does related to investigations.
Yeah,
You separately on housing, maybe if people are interested only in certain elements and want to go right to that, maybe there's a way to put it in vignettes. So you also talked about hate crimes, right? The education around hate crimes. And so I sent, for the benefit of others, if you didn't already share this, Mike, Rhonda McCoy sent me information about a grant source. And what it would take is having a partnership with a local nonprofit. Rather than it being dispensed through the city, it would be done by an external nonprofit. I actually had a meeting just before this with the, that included the executive director of ACT. And I asked if that was something that ACT would be willing to do. They are a 501c3, so they're clearly a nonprofit. And I didn't get a real bite on that from them. I don't know that that was really within their scope. I think it was new. It was something different. So it may be some other partners that might be able to do something like that. But that was something as well. You talked about having a video message around the ability to kind of distinguish between what's free speech and what would legally constitute a hate crime. What do you do about it? And so
Well,
that's out there.
yeah. There are two things here. One is that there was one other thing that that we had wanted added to the web site, and that is to enable people to actually file a complaint and submit it online or in person. And I think that's essential because otherwise people have a difficulty, clearing the process of how do I fill this out? How do I get this to a real person? And I think that needs to be done. And then also I was thinking about the description of the new video for the web page. That would be something that I could simply prepare, and then it can be loaded onto the site. My question is, who do I need to talk to about doing that? Is it Inna?
Well, you would coordinate through us.
Okay, so I
to get that
coordinate
done.
with you. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
we would
We'll
help
do
you
that.
as your staff liaison.
Right. Yeah. Now the next thing's related to the next section, holding commission training. You just addressed that issue about arranging for hate crimes, bias incidents training for commissioners. And I did read your message that I think you sent it to me either right before Easter or right after Easter. And I read it this morning and I responded back to you that would be fine if the commission partnered with someone. In other words, I don't think the commission itself would be seen as a victim, a potential victim of a hate crime. Rather, it would be some other group of individuals who would be the prospective victims. And that if the commission partnered with them, then we could get the training that they also received. Is that my understanding?
Correct.
Okay.
It was to accomplish a bigger goal for a nonprofit group, and that the commission would benefit from that through being coordinated with and therefore trained on hate crimes identification and support.
Right. Okay. So my question is, how do we identify a partner? How do we get a partner?
Well,
I mean, Ms. McCoy didn't mention that. She simply said, well, here, if you get a partner, with an organization that's going to get this grant to do training,
I
then
think
that's
it's
great.
worth brainstorming with everybody here and beyond, as to whether there are recognized community partners that would be good for that and could be approached, or simply we could share the information with and then make sure that they had specifically had the information about the grant opportunity.
Okay, Linda, I'm gonna call on you. I see your hand is raised.
Just the question about that is, so the organization would do the training, or we would partner to get a grant and the organization would be helping to sponsor the training, but we would still get training from somebody who specializes in hate crimes. Is that how it's working?
Yeah, so the beneficiary of the grant would be the nonprofit.
Gotcha. And it would be a nonprofit that
Mm.
hopefully is supporting or providing services to a population that potentially, okay, so there's like
Yes.
Annapolis Pride, that could be one. And I was thinking about
Right.
conflict resolution, but Anne Arundel conflict resolution.
Yeah, but that's more county, unless that
Right.
they envelope
That's
you know,
that was,
city in that regard.
course. Or we could do like a church, a local church, a synagogue, you know, any of the African American churches. It might be something that Reverend Carletta Allen would be interested in sponsoring, because she's got a good space to do training too. So I think we could come up with lots of ideas.
Yeah. You know, I was just trying to advance the opportunity, right? And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I wouldn't
Right.
continue
You still have
to
apply.
talk. Yeah.
Well, what I could do is I have got email contacts for a lot of these groups in the community, and I can forward on the email that Ms. McCoy sent to you and say that if you're interested in applying for this grant, this is something that you can get. And by the way, the Human Relations Commission would be delighted to partner with you in this.
Right.
Okay, and so I can send it out to a whole bunch of people and see what kind of response I get to it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I would
Yep.
still pursue. I don't intend to let go of pursuing with Rhonda McCoy about you know, through the Attorney General, the state's attorneys. I
Right.
can't remember if I'm choosing the right public body here, but you know,
Right.
for the hate crimes training that they do for their legal.
I
I think you
thought
can pursue that
I-
on a separate, yeah. Linda?
I thought we had decided that we were going that way with the state office.
We are. It's just that in the interim,
Gotcha.
Rhonda said, look, I came across this grant. I want to push that out as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just send an email out to a whole lot of people that I think would be interested or might be interested in this.
Yeah. I
And
gotcha.
all I need is one group to say, that sounds great, I'll apply for a grant. And then we'll see if they get it. And we
Yeah.
can partner with, there could be a lot of different groups that'll be applying for grants. And I'll emphasize that this is something that that affected group has to actually file the grant for. I'll mention that the Human Relations Commission can't initiate it, but we can join you if it's approved. As I say, I know lots of individuals that I can send this to.
I don't like a good opportunity to pass by, right? You know, it's strengthening the community. It's part of your mission anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay, the other thing we're talking about is the arranging for inclusion training for commissioners.
Yep.
Is there anything
we
new on
start
that?
tomorrow with our in-person inclusion training, and then we're setting virtual dates, of which I'll be able to share with you hopefully by the end of the week.
Oh, perfect. So end of the week, we'll have some information on that then.
Yeah, we'll give you we'll blend you into the virtual training, because I know that, you know,
Yeah.
it's much easier to do it that way for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I
so-
agree. Okay, the next item under here, we're now going into subsection 6B here, which is discussion decision on other action plan goals for 2024. And what I did here was simply identify the suggestions that the commission made to the body that was empowered to write the new comprehensive plan for the city of Annapolis. Three of the 5 areas that we identified are actually addressed in the plan. And that's expanding public transportation, supporting and empowering public housing residents, and addressing the lack of housing affordability in the city. There's parts of the comprehensive plan that touch base on all of those. However, I could find, and I haven't done a really as much of a thorough review as I could, I could not find any reference to the other two suggestions that we made, which was dealing with the symptoms and causes of social divisions among communities and making Annapolis a hate-free city. You can find no reference that the comprehensive plan group included either one of those areas as an area for discussion. I could possibly miss it. The document is over 500 pages long, but I've looked through it and couldn't find anything. Linda, I see your hand is up. Do you have something you'd like to say about this?
Oh, no, I think that's old, but I also could not find that stuff. I did search, just the document with searching tool.
Yeah.
So, and I couldn't find that either.
Okay, I think there's a good chance that it wasn't addressed. That doesn't mean that the commission cannot address it on our own, but it simply means that it's not going to be in the comprehensive plan, which I think is unfortunate. I'd just like to open this up for just a general conversation here in terms of whether we want to weigh in on those specific three areas that they're worth something in the comprehensive plan that related to things that we specifically recommended, and then how we might want to deal with 4 and 5, and that is dealing with the symptoms and causes of social divisions and making Annapolis a hate-free city. So what do commissioners think? I think it's important that we identify some things that we're going to be working on as a commission, and things that we think are important for the city of Annapolis to be looking into. Linda, I saw that you sent an email message out earlier today. I didn't have a chance to look at it. Were there things in there that you mentioned that relate to this conversation that we're having right now?
So it was just a spreadsheet that we had made around the goals that we set. And so it's a bit redundant with what you're talking about. Maybe
Okay.
there's a little bit of detail. I think that we still have to kind of figure that out. But I think it would be important to at least note to the Annapolis 2040 comprehensive plan author, whose name I can't remember, that we've noted that those two things are not in there and why we think they're important, and maybe some of the things that we are doing to work on them, like make Annapolis a hate-free city. Well, we're looking into hate bias training right now that we would like to open to have to the public, address social divisions, making sure that people know who to go. We're addressing that because we're making sure that people know who to go to when they feel like they're being discriminated against. So I think it would be good at least to follow up and say, we didn't see that any of this was in here. I mean, it may be that doesn't go in a comprehensive plan. I don't know, but we feel like it's important, and here's some of the things that we're doing.
Let me ask this question. I agree with you on that, Linda. I think we definitely should do it. And I specifically remember that those last two items were specifically suggested by Chuck Hurley. Is that correct, Chuck?
I thought Linda may have done the first and I did the second, but I agree with both.
I wasn't here for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I agree with both. And my 2 cents would be, the plan has not been officially adopted. Am I correct or not correct?
It's working its way through right now. It's last I heard there were committees that were working on it, but I think it's close to being adopted.
But wouldn't it, my 2 cents is that I would recommend that the commission, with probably Mike as the right person to present, to draft a statement and then present it to City Council, that we would like to see those two issues to amend the plan to make sure those two issues are included.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're accepting anything of that nature right now, but there again, I'm not certain of that.
But
So-
I bet it
Linda?
would be in order for a City Council person to amend it to put those two provisions in, and
They could. Linda?
I do know that they had a working session on it last week because I listened to some of it. It was online. They were really talking about a specific piece. They spent a lot of time talking about just like what housing development will look like in each ward, and really focus on that. I think it's still in play, and I don't think it would hurt us to write a statement, and I would even volunteer to go read it at the city council meeting, do a testimony. Again, just, we worked on making this list. We had several meetings with the Annapolis 2040 planning people. We made an effort and we're working on this. So I think it's worth our while just to keep that in front of them.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I would also like to read through what they actually did in the area of public transportation. I think it's really critical, especially for many of the communities in Annapolis are very dependent on the public transportation system. And every so often, the idea is brought up as well, do we really need to have something that operates just within the city? Can't we make this a regional approach? And the danger with that is that you could very easily lose the services that are currently provided by the city. If you go to a regional approach, the bus service wouldn't be anywhere near as good. So I think that needs to be examined. And then the area of supporting and empowering public housing residents, I think that's right up our alley. I think we should very carefully review that section. And then the final one about addressing the lack of housing affordability. I know that's an issue Rosemary has raised several times. And it's a really tricky issue, especially today when you've got two big problems. And two big problems is you've got a shortage of housing, and you've got the housing that's available is just so incredibly expensive that average people can't afford it. And how do you deal with that? And I'd be interested in reading what the plan has to say on those three areas. What I'm going to do is I'd be willing to take on reviewing the public transportation section. I'm going to ask if there's anyone who would be interested in looking at supporting and empowering public housing residents, what the plan has to say about that, and also the addressing the lack of housing affordability. So anyone who would take the lead in this researching what's in the plan. Linda's already volunteered to take a look at the last two. That's dealing with the symptoms and causes of social divisions, making Annapolis a hate-free city. That's not in the plan, but developing a statement that could be presented to city council. Possibly encompassing the position of the commission on some of the other elements as well. But is there any interest in anyone doing that? Looking at that?
Mike, I don't want to be a naysayer, but I suggested this several months ago and nobody really responded. I feel like we've been talking about this plan for such a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like there's a lot of energy in our group to get into the deepness of it. So that's why I just started focusing on the 5 areas, and I did some searches through the whole document over the past couple months. I don't know if the transportation plan is enough, right? Because I'm not affected by it. And so that's the other part too, again, because we're not necessarily out in communities that we say we want to support and really understanding what these things should look like. I also don't feel like I'm in a place where I can be commenting on the public transportation because again, I'm not affected by it. I have a car and I use it. My son now rides the bus.
Mhm.
He complains about it, but he's also 19 and complains about lots of. So I don't know. I hear what you're saying, but I kind of feel like we need to be wrapping this up at this point because it is getting wrapped up with the city, hopefully.
Okay,
Although it doesn't seem like it's really, there's parts of it that don't seem like, there seems like there's a struggle there. So I don't know. I mean, if anybody else wants to keep going with this, I'm interested to hear, but I have not heard the energy around this.
okay, I think you're right about that. Linda, I see Chuck's hand is up.
Well, I just think, couldn't we distill this? Again, I plead guilty to not being as interested in the 20-year outlook as I am with the here and now. I'm guilty of that. But I think that I would recommend we consider a statement which would be presented to city council, whether that would be you, Mike. I think it probably appropriately would be, but Linda could draft it and make the point that we would like to see the plan amended to include those positions.
Well, I'd be willing to, draft a statement along those lines, and I could do it on behalf of the commission.
Great.
At this stage, the other way of going about this is to go to what I would call the usual suspects on the council. I mean, there are going to be some members of council who I would expect would say, hey, this really does sound good. We ought to do this. I'm thinking of perhaps 4 members of the council and possibly 5 if you add the mayor, if they responded to that. I can't see anybody standing up and saying I'm not worried about social divisions in our city, and I certainly wouldn't oppose Annapolis being a hate-free city. Almost became one, but it never really got off the ground years and years and years ago. So we could, if we wanted to, just to focus on that. And then if there's interest, there's a number of these areas. I may just take a look and see if I can find the sections and read through it. And if there are things there that I really have a problem with, I'm going to get back to the commission about it. I'll say, okay, I've looked through this. That all seems pretty good. Don't worry about it. Or if there are things in there that are superficial, then I can come back and tell the commission, in these areas, there's not like a whole lot. I'd be willing to bet that on the area of housing affordability, you're going to have well-meaning, but unfortunately superficial kinds of comments. The kinds of solutions people come up with, which they think are an end all, are really not. It's a highly complex problem that's not easily resolved. And then in terms of, yeah.
I don't think you need it. Do you need a motion on that? I would agree with what you're
No, I'm not going to ask for a motion. I'm just simply asking the commission if they're willing to humor me and putting together something that we can present to the council on this. And I hear what Linda's saying. This is a bit tired in the tooth, so to speak. But it's important because most of the major decisions I think the city's going to be made, they're going to want to look back at them. What does a comprehensive plan say about this? Some of these plans sit on the desk, they can collect dust, but there's been a big effort made this time to make this a real planning document that'll guide Annapolis over the next 20 some years. So I would think that there's importance to it, and I'm willing to take the time to sort of look through the plan and come up with something, but definitely initiate something to deal with items 4 and 5, Roman numerals items 4 and 5, which was here. Does that sound good to people? I'm not asking you to do it.
Certainly does to me.
Okay, all right. And I'll follow up on Linda's suggestion that we draft a statement and then say that this is a major omission, that nothing was said, that nothing was said about this. And it indeed is an issue, and it's a problem. And see what the response of the council is. Human Relations Commission can ask for time on the agenda to make a presentation. That they allow the public to make these kinds of things and make statements along these lines. And I see while they're in the process of working on the plan, there may be time to add something.
Great.
Okay, the other item here is fill commission vacancies with a focus on maintaining diversity. I think the intent there is that as a commission, that we work hard to make sure that the commission is diverse in its makeup. And certainly we want that folks join the commission who are interested in the work that we do. But it's also important that we maintain a highly diverse commission as well. And that's been communicated by me many times to the coordinator of boards and commissions. And so they have done their best, I think, to try to recruit folks. But I feel it's important that we should definitely focus on that as a goal, that we continue to strive to make the commission as diverse as it needs to be.
I agree with you very much, Mike.
Okay.
It's been a frustrating experience trying to recruit. I have my contacts in the Hispanic community, as you know, and to have someone who is bilingual totally without an accent like I do to join the commission is really significant. The other reason I'm really interested in having more commissioners is that even on this call, there's so much work to do.
Yeah.
And all of us here can't do it all. Who are right now on this Zoom link. We can't do it all. We have lives and commitments, and we just need more commissioners if we're going to do things right and
Agreed.
thorough.
I agree.
So again, my vent. Thank you very much.
No,
No,
that's all
I
right.
agree with your vent.
That's all right. I know, speaking very often with Hillary Raftovich, who's a coordinator of boards and commissions, and talking with the chairs of other boards and commissions around the city, is that there is a large number of positions that are vacant. That's endemic around the entire city. It's not us. We have, along with the transportation board, have the largest number of vacancies. The reason for that is because we're the largest number of commissioners. We have 15 commissioners. We have 15 statutory positions that need to be filled. Going back over the years I've been on the commission, this goes back to 1996, I can remember a couple of golden times when we actually had 15 commissioners. Didn't last very long. A couple of times that happened. And so that's a difficult part of it. And I can't speak about the transportation board. They have the same number, 15, but they have a different structured plan. The way they do it, they have nominations from members of the city council who are supposed to put forward the names of individuals who will serve on the transportation board. I believe that's how they do it. We all have at-large members. If we adopted a method similar to what the county does, the county also has, each member of county council has to appoint someone to serve on the Human Relations Commission of the county. And there's one person who serves at large. But the problem with that is sometimes you don't get the people who are necessarily enthusiastic about it. So what we have to do is just, talk to folks in the community. The reason we got Joshua is because I said something to Carl Snowden. I said, who can you nominate? Who can you recommend to serve as a commissioner? And he said, I've got just the person for you. And that's what I did. Rosemary, if you know someone from the Latino community or persons, invite them. They have to be residents of the city. That's the only requirement. That concludes the business that I have on the agenda. Are there other items that folks would like to bring up? Yeah,
Mike,
Chuck.
just a question, actually. And I looked on the website to find the head of the code enforcement, and the website doesn't have John's name. It has, let me pull it back up. By the way, I highly recommend. I just read Josh's point. I just read the article about HACA being found troubled agency, and that's well worth reading. But it has Christopher Jakubiak as director of the office,
Correct.
Maria Brown as his assistant, and then Lisa Minker, zoning enforcement and plan compliance officer. Is that the right person?
She works for John Manassa is the chief of code enforcement that Lisa works for, and actually Maria does as well.
Is there a phone number for John Marassa? Is it MAR?
MENAMENASSA. But even if you reached out to Chris Jakubiak, the director, he would get you what
probably
you need.
out of courtesy, it would make sense.
Yeah,
to say that
I mean, clearly he's going to give you time because he wants you to know and understand. If people are bringing complaints to you, it's to everybody's benefit that you know and understand.
Right, and I'm assuming he has the same goal too.
Yeah.
Like to find out what he's doing. And how do you get a phone number for him?
I'll give it to you.
It's not on the
Oh gosh, sorry, my mouse just fell on the floor.
Okay, Rosemary, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this is just something that we could maybe save for next meeting. When we talked about what the outreach committee had done in previous years before COVID, when we had a booth, such as Chuck and I doing Hispanic Heritage Month.
It was fun.
It was fun. You got to hear me speak Spanish and people not laugh. But now that time has passed and I have no idea if we were asked to do a similar situation. Do we have a tablecloth? Do we have an easel? Do we have?
Yep.
Are we prepared?
I got you covered. I don't have a skirt that says Human Relations Commission, but we can get you one. We can.
That would be great.
I have a skirt that has City of Annapolis on it, and we could just create a logo that goes on it for the commission.
That would be
or
great.
it's on the tabletop. I have tabletop. I have what you need.
Thank you.
Okay.
I
Linda,
would enjoy
see
that
Linda's-
again.
So the phone number before we let go
great.
of that is 410-260-2200.
Let me get my 410-220
260
260
2200.
to
And the number
22.
for
Okay.
yes, then another number for planning and zoning is 410-263-7961.
2637961.
Correct.
And one more, my bad, one more spelling of John's last name.
MENASSA.
MENA
ASSA.
Manasseh.
Manassa. Correct.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Linda, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I wanted to say was to Chuck and Rosemary that the email that I sent you before this meeting was, let's meet as the outreach committee and let's make a plan for doing these events. So I would love to be able to do that before the next meeting here, because that's how we're going to get new members. That's how we're going to tell people why we exist and how we can support them. To me,
I
that's
agree.
everything that we've talked about tonight. So and we can develop a plan as it fits who we are. If it's once a quarter, once a season to do an event, then it's once a season. But that's what I feel like we're really lacking, and I would really like to see us do that together.
What do you see? How should we proceed? Do you want to?
I sent you an email, and I
Okay.
just sent some dates and times that work.
Okay, great.
And then I'm asking you both to respond and see what works for you.
I will read it now. Great.
And it was not knowing that you were going away next week. So I don't think I went for the whole month, but you'll see there's some pattern.
I agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
Are we going to meet in person or are we going to do it via Zoom?
That's the question that I had to both of you. So we can decide however you all want to do it. Whatever for our schedules.
I've got the schedule in front of me. I certainly could do the April 17th.
Could you just email back?
Yeah. Okay.
Right now, I'm moved on to my next thing, and I know we're about to end. Yeah. So email back and we'll set a date.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining our meeting this evening. I'd also like to express thanks to Julian Jacques, who is our technical support team today from the City of Annapolis TV. And we know you're out there, Julian. Thank you again for giving us the help with respect to the technicalities of Zoom. Everything went very, very well. So our great appreciation to you, Julian. Is there anything else that folks would like to weigh in with? If not, I'm going to suggest that we adjourn our meeting. Any objection?
No objection.
Not seeing any. Meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all so much for attending our meeting tonight, and we'll continue doing the work for the Human Relations Commission.